Great. So good evening once again, and welcome to this webinar. This is the first time that Trainer Tribe, an initiative of Quest Alliance, is partnering with the Teachers Collective based in Bangalore. So they would be co-hosting this webinar, this 1-hour webinar. Feel free to use the chat box as frequently as possible. Leave your comments, questions, and remember to use hashtag #TrainerTribe. You may be aware by now that the host for this webinar has muted all of us so that we have a very engaging, lively learning session ahead. But don't worry, we have the chat box available for your comments, questions, opinions, thoughts. So feel free to use the chat box, which is right there. So giving you a brief on Quest Alliance. Quest Alliance is an organization based in Bangalore, which works towards transforming school-to-work ecosystems through self-learning. We basically work with young people to equip them with 21st century skills, and we work through 3 pillars of education technology, capacity building, and collaboration. Over the years, we have reached out to 4,000 educators across 50 plus organizations. We are present in 22 states across the country and work with close to 45 partners. We are currently also working with 7 state government organizations. A round of applause and gratitude, a shout out of gratitude to all our partners, our donors and funders for the extreme support, wholehearted support they have been giving us throughout the years. Great. So deep diving into the topic for the day, we have a lot of participants who are joining us again after the 2 webinars we had over the last 2 weeks. It's great to see all of you participate once again. Thank you for that. So the topic for today is fake news, ways to build skills in young people to recognize it. And as mentioned, we are co-hosting this with the Teachers Collective based in Bangalore. Over to Sangitha, Krishnamurthy, and Anasuya Mishra to introduce themselves and take us into this lively webinar.
A very warm welcome to everyone who is along with us today. I am Anasuya. I'm a very proud co-founder of the Teachers Collective. The Teachers Collective Bangalore is a conglomeration of 3 teachers, Parul, Sangitha, and myself. Now, we 3 come from varied different backgrounds, but we came together with the same agenda or same thought process. That is, we would like to work with students, and we would like to work with students even outside their classrooms. But the main whole essence of us was that we want to make learning fun again. And I have a management degree and come from corporate background, but then I realized that teaching is my calling. I did a Montessori course, taught students from 6th to 8th years of age. And then I went to the traditional schooling where I am a literature teacher and I teach students until grade 10. I have rather taught students until grade 10. And I have about 10 years or more of experience in this line. And also, as it is written in front of you, that I am a baker. Yes, it is true that I am almost a semi-professional baker, and I'm very good at it, to tell you. I hand it over now to Sangitha to introduce herself.
Good afternoon, everyone. Thanks for joining us. I'm Sangitha Krishnamurthy. I'm a special educator, which means I work with children who have different learning needs and different life needs, from autism, ADHD, dyslexia, dysgraphia, to pretty much, whatever we can help with, we are there to help. In my previous janmam, before I became a teacher, I was a finance professional, a CPA, which is the equivalent of the CA from the US. I've worked in both corporate as well as NGOs in that frame, and I've done a lot of teaching and training over the period of time. So let us now get into a little about our approach. Before we actually tell you the meat and potatoes of, what fake news is, we thought we'll also tell you a little about an approach that has worked for us. Because many of you are teachers, parents getting into this. So we'd like for you to also get up and design your lesson plan or your session in whichever way you do. And these are certain things that have worked well for us. Step one, that it's inclusive. This means that we should be able to cover a majority of learners, whether it is their brain wiring requirement. It could be people who are not comfortable with English. It could be people who, are first generation learners. Any kind of a difference, we want to make sure that our sessions are inclusive and reaches everyone. Also, simple is very sophisticated. Now, this is very hard for people to understand. Albert Einstein was this phenomenal scientist because he was also able to explain the most complicated concepts in a very simple way to a 6 or a 7-year-old. Simple is actually very, very sophisticated. We don't need huge words, jargon. We just need to be able to take the essence of it and make it as simple as possible. So simple, sophisticated is something that absolutely we believe in.
We also believe in starting to work with students from where they are. We don't have any prerequisite requirement. We have experienced that the expectation of the teacher have much impact on the student's motivation and performance. So we start with the student from clean slate. We take the child from where he is or she is to where the potential of the child will lead. We help him or her completely. And we've seen that this enables the children in the class more. This helps them to collaborate. Everybody starts helping each other. And it's a fun learning experience when we take a child from where he or she is and help the child reach his potential. We are also doing this because we are looking at the bigger picture here. We are teaching skills or helping the child today because we want the child to be able to handle himself or say 15 years or 20 years down the line. So every item of the picture, that is every nitty-gritty of the picture is the minutest detail is noted into, so that the bigger picture is much more beautiful tomorrow.
Questioning. Our kids are encouraged to question. Now, why is this important? First of all, learning happens through questioning. Even if we believe that a mainstream examination actually assesses learning, the reason we say it assesses learning is there are a bunch of questions and these kids go and answer them. If you are going to introduce yourself to someone, the way you're going to do it is always going to be through questions. So we want for our kids to be very comfortable questioning as a matter of practice. This could be questioning the content. It's definitely questioning us, the adults, and what they see in the environment. So questioning is critical, and this is something that we highly encourage. The other thing we find is we like to teach children how to think, but not what to think. It's not about me putting my approach and my thoughts into someone else's minds. It's about us helping them bring their thoughts out in the way that they would like. So we teach skills, but never tell them what to think. I might disagree very strongly, but I can still teach someone.
Now, we believe in building on the life skills today, and that prepares our students for the future. As I'm sure we all know that life skills are necessary for full participations in everyday life. Say, for example, we say empathy, cooperation, negotiation. These are the few skills that will help a child in the future. As we were telling before about the bigger picture, so these life skills, if put in today, will help him or her in the future to deal with whatever is happening around him. And the other thing that we definitely do is make our class interactive, full of discussion. As I said before, that we wanted to make learning fun again. This is an imperative part of our teaching, where we do introduce a lot of fun activities, videos, discussions, we do skits, plays, and this is what we have seen has left the child very happy. So what happens is, if the theory is delivered in a very dry way, the child immediately switches off. But if it is delivered in this way, we have seen that when the child goes back home and thinks about what good things happened today in the class, These are the few things that the child remembers, and unknowingly he or she is revising the theory also. That has helped us immensely in keeping our class in this format.
All right, so before we actually go, so we do this 15 session teaching of debating, and fake news is one part of what we do as part of that session. So some of the other things that you need to think about teaching or discussing with your sessions. Now, it could be children, it could be other students. When we say children, you please substitute students of whatever kind, because we are used to teaching children. We end up saying children instead of students quite a bit. We need to talk about bias. What is bias? It's a tilt we all have. Now, all of us are biased. No one can be neutral all the time in every situation, every concept. That doesn't work. So all of us have a bias. It could be whichever direction, upside down, middle, I don't care what it is, but there is going to be a bias. Step one is knowing what a bias is and becoming aware of it. Now, when I become aware and say, this is my bias, then I have the opportunity to go and find out another way of being and work towards getting to neutrality. For example, a bias example would be that I am biased towards face-to-face teaching because I think that's really good. But that doesn't also mean that I'm biased in favor of one without being against something else.
Now, logical fallacy is something we teach as part of our debating curriculum. The reason we teach is the meaning of the word fallacy is that they are mistakes or you can say errors in the reasoning which basically undermines the logic of our argument. Now, argument, as we all know, is an essential part of debating. You need to have proper evidence to provide it. So therefore, we make sure that our arguments that we place are without fallacy. We teach this for that reason, but we've also found out that fallacies are required to be learned in order to handle fake news, because most of the fake news that are circulating around definitely have some or the other fallacy, which if identified can easily be cancelled off, that we don't need to go further and read it. So such fallacies, say for example, the one in front of your screen is the false binary, which basically says that there is a right and a wrong for every situation. There's nothing in the middle. Now, world is not just black or white. There are other colors in the middle. But see, this is one of the fallacy. There are many such more fallacies. We need to be aware of them. Now, the other thing that we pay very big attention to is the giving and taking feedback. We have found out that it is very tough for not only students but also adults to be able to give and take feedback. Giving and taking feedback requires a lot of evidence, that when you give a feedback, you need to provide with the evidence as to why you're giving it. And even when you're taking a feedback, your frame of mind needs to be of a particular way. So with fake news, we have found out that if you are giving a feedback to a particular fake news, then you better have evidence with you to be able to say that this news is fake. And you should be also able to take it on the other side. That is, you should be also able to take it, to receive it. So therefore, we thought that giving and taking feedback is an important part to learn.
And we actually teach it very explicitly. Now, why do we need to teach fake news? It's been around, right? Well, the reason we are doing this now is apparently 68% of them only use their phones. This study by the Reuters Institute for the Study of Journalism with an India focus found that these are the different kinds of fake news that we are exposed to on a regular basis, like almost 40% on average, that we're looking at news and that is likely to be fake. So we need to explicitly teach this. And now let's get into the actual session. Now, if you are educators joining us, this is kind of a background for you. You could take the next parts of the session and make your own changes and use it to teach your students. So what is fake news and what are the various categories? We're going to cover that
So
next.
basically, fake news is a misinformation. It is, it cannot be valid. You can't have a valid source for it. It is fabricated, and it is also, it is based on an iota of truth and built up to look very real to deceive people. Fake news has been existing in our world since its legitimate counterpart has been. But of late, it has become very active. The reason being the way we are consuming information is helping it.
So we're going to start with a quick quiz, true or false. You have to answer with your chat boxes, and Lennon is going to moderate this for us. Tell us true or false, fake news is always political. What do you think?
Okay, so the chat box is filling. It's buzzing with conversations, and the one word that is coming up is it is false. That's the majority that is coming up. Few of them are saying true, but the majority is false.
That's excellent. You got the right answer. Give yourselves a nice pat on the back. We have taken this up. Now, everyone seems to think that fake news is only political. Well, it's not. And as a challenge, this entire presentation, we haven't taken anything political at all. The point is for us to learn to identify fake news and figure out how to check so that we know what is fake and what is not. So fake news is absolutely not always only political. So what are the different kinds of fakes? We're getting into factual fakes. Now, I don't know how many of you, if you have seen this, please tell us in the chat boxes if this is a familiar picture. This is as of March 24th, 2020, about dolphins in Marine Drive in Mumbai and peacocks and deer in Coimbator's roads. Well, it's lovely, right? We all want to think that the lockdown has helped nature. We definitely want to do that. Unfortunately, though it is good intentions, this is fake. This came from Japan, a city called Nara, and the deer took over the streets of Japan. And it was not only that it was not from Coimbatore, it was also not in this year at all. This news is from July 28, 2014. This is the most, the most common kind of fake news that you're going to see. It is factual fakes, that the facts themselves are wrong. And this is what we would commonly consider completely fake, right? It did happen. There's a kernel of truth in it. That means there is one little bit of truth. And because that truth is there, you think, oh, the rest of the news is also true. Now we'd like you to take a look at this video.
We don't want to just change your phone. We want to make you say, wow, that is a bigger change than I expected. iPhone 5 is a result of that desire to surprise.
It's been completely redesigned. For the first time ever, we've increased the size of the display. By making the screen taller but not wider, you can see more of your content without the need to scroll. We're making scrolling a thing of the past. iPhone 5 is more comfortable to use and reduces scrolling fatigue while reading long documents.
Even with the larger display, iPhone 5 is the thinnest iPhone we've ever built. To achieve a design this tall, we had to look at a complete redesign of the internal architecture. It's 18% thinner and 795% taller than the previous iPhone.
It makes everything you do on iPhone 5 feel easier and just a move of your arm away. No more hidden menus, no confusing gestures. Everything is right at your fingertips.
The panorama feature is simply awesome. The Ultra HD widescreen display lets you get your entire shot in a single snap. You can also use your iPhone 5's innovative design for image stabilization.
With an iPhone this tall, reception has never been better. You'll enjoy crystal clear clarity on even the longest calls. And of course, all your favorite apps are still available. In fact, you'll find your old favorites also benefit from the new experience-enhancing Ultra HD widescreen. We found that while many previous iPhone owners were using FaceTime, they weren't using it for their faces. That's why we're introducing Body Time. Using an iPhone 5's Ultra HD widescreen display, Body Time lets you see a person's entire body, allowing you to detect mannerisms and defects like never before.
We looked way beyond what we saw as expected. It took all of our learning, all of our thinking, to realize something so simple, so clear, and yet so tall.
iPhone 5, the tallest thing to happen to iPhone since iPhone.
Now, this video is called as the parody or satire fake news. Now, the word parody or satire basically means an imitation or exaggeration of
We want to make you
of the facts, and it's deliberately made so for a comic effect. But here, when you look at the ad, they are trying to legitimize the product by showing you the Apple logo, by giving you the fact that he's a co-senior vice president, there's a senior vice president, then they're constantly saying iPhone 5. Now, all these things that are there, which will make any layman feel, oh, really? I even saw some comments out there saying that, is it so? I would like to buy. So it is really quite convincing. It looks very legitimate. Now, very few people will go till the end of the video to see that it is made by a group called Satire. And I presume that the first time you must have thought that it's a fake when you saw that long, tall phone, or when the guy put it in his pant and it was difficult for him to watch. Now, all these facts that we want in life, say we want to have that panoramic view, or we want to use it as a scale, or maybe even for that other stuff, that body time instead of face time. These are all the things that they have taken and made fun of it, given you a comic relief of it, but it is actually not true. So everybody is not going to see it that way. They are not going to differentiate between an Apple ad or a regular a person who somebody else has created the ad, because an Apple ad is much more sophisticated. It believes in subtlety, and this is out on the face. There is a huge difference.
All right. So what is the problem? How does this link up to fake news? Well, if someone were to tell me, I think Harsha Parmar, if you could please mute your mic. So if someone were to tell me, cake makes you lose weight, I would love that, right? I'll say, yeah, right. Cake is full of protein. So you could actually have a headline that says, the Teachers Collective says cake has protein. And then this satire or the comic part ends up actually emphasizing the fake news part of it. So that is the danger in this. There's no problem as long as it's a clear parody or a satire and it shows up as that. The problem gets when it's very, very close to the real thing. The next category, take a look at this. Sorry, this is called a contextual fake. This is what is called a contextual fake. So what happens here is they said that Venice's canals were really clear. Well, that makes sense. Remember that there's always going to be a little bit of truth in whatever is the fake. So yes, without so many boats, the canals were clearer. They were better. That was the truth. But the dolphins were never there to start with. And the swans were never there to start with. Were these actually near Italy? Absolutely. But not in Venice and not in this time frame. So what happens here is they take context, they change the context. So this is true as it happened, where it happened, but when it's put together like this, it isn't. For example, there was this video of migrants attacking a Christmas tree in Germany, which ended up just being a cultural practice from Cairo. So we take a video that meant something else from somewhere else and put it in and give it meaning, which is contextually a fake. All right, at this point in the program, we always go for a body break. So if you're a teacher, this works very, very well. Can we have all of you please standing up? Please make space around you. Make sure that you're not going to hurt yourself. If any of you has a problem, you've sprained an ankle or something like that, please don't hurt yourself further. But for the ones who can, please stand up and follow through with us. The first is Superman. So you're going to stand on tiptoes with your hand up. Like Superman, you're going to be ready to take off. 2 is Superwoman, standing firm, strong with hands on the hip. And 3 is Spider-Man, except imagine you're going to be sliding off. You need to put your pressure and hold on to the building, otherwise you're going to slide off the building. So whenever I say a number, you have to follow that pose and hold it until I change. So let's start off with 2. We're going to start off with Superwoman. So please stand with your hands on your hip, nice and firm. Then we're going to go into Superman, pose 1, on your tiptoes. Stretch, stretch, stretch. Nice and tall. Before you go directly into Spider-Man, on the floor, on all 3s, please stretch. Feel the stretch in your muscles. Hold on tight. Remember, you're going to slide off the building otherwise. All right, I hope you're stretching, stretching, stretching. Now please go back to Superman, back to your tiptoes. No cheating, just straight back to tiptoes before you come back to Superwoman. Stand firm. This is around the time when, if I could see everyone, you're probably sighing a nice sigh of relief. When you're doing this with students in a class, you gain 20 minutes of their attention after this break. So this for me is magic. It could be any kind of a body break. You guys decide, make it more, exciting for yourselves, but this absolutely works. Another video for you. We thought, why not make this as fun as we can.
दूध नहीं है, कॉफी, बेटी की कमाई यूं ही पीते जा रहे हो।
काश हमें एक बेटा होता।
कॉफी, उनको देना।
बदलती दुनिया आपकी पहले सनस्क्रीन धूप से बचाए, दूसरा चिपचिपाहट घटाए, तीसरा चेहरे से दाग हटाए और चौथा भीतर से निखारे आपको। बेटा, एक कॉफी मिलेगा? चेहरे पे लिखे नई तकदीर। एक और कॉफी देना।
दूध नहीं।
This is what is called a fallacious argument. Remember we talked about fallacies, an issue with the logic itself. Now, I don't know what kind of coffee this guy is drinking, but it can't be that expensive that a daughter can't afford it and a son would. Does coffee also have gender? Well, according to this, absolutely, you're supposed to feel bad that you are a daughter, you're not a son. The next part is the fallacy that everyone's going to see. Now, did you guys see the fallacies here? Please enter in your chat. Do you see why this could be an issue? The other fallacy is there is this person who is dark, which is South India, right? We have enough melanin because that strengthens our skin, and that's what we need here. But no, that's not good enough. And she has self-esteem issues, and therefore she goes to a face, a fairness cream, whitens her skin, because that happens in 14 days, right? What we have taken so long to build up in our melanin, we're going to get rid of it in 14 days. And she gets confidence, she gets self-esteem, and she gets the job. And now coffee at home is not good enough. It has to be in a 5-star hotel. Guys, the problem with this fallacy is that, now suppose I were to tell you a lie 100 times and you hear it from many, many people, the 101st time you're going to believe it as the truth. Did you know that the skin whitening industry for women alone, in India alone, is 5,000 crores projected to 2023? And this is despite the government putting many, many curbs on advertising. Why do most people use skin whitening? Because of peer pressure, they want to look good, and low self-esteem. Now, when we are going to put this underneath and your fake news is going to tap into this emotion of yours, you are being primed to listen. So we need to be able to figure out what is the fallacy. Is it true? If I wear that kind of a deodorant, I'm going to be able to get a girlfriend. If, if I buy that car, I'm going to have a model as my wife. These are the many, many different fallacious logic that we see every day. So you need to be able to address this.
Now let's see the other video.
Sometimes people who create fake information think they're doing it for a good cause, but it's still fake. Take a look at this picture. On the left, an iceberg supposedly photographed in 2008. On the right, what you think is the same iceberg 10 years later in 2018. The best way to check photos online is via a reverse image search. Just right-click on an image in Google Chrome, then search Google for image. You'll see where else an image has been posted. Here, the photo on the left was actually taken in 2016 by NASA. It shows the Getz ice shelf in the Antarctic. The one on the right was taken in 2018, but in the Arctic at the other end of the Earth. It's not the same iceberg at all. The person who posted these pictures wanted to highlight a problem that is, of course, very real: polar ice melting because of global warming. But he ended up confusing the issue by posting two photos that had nothing to do with each other. It's weird because there are tons of pictures online documenting polar ice melt.
Now, this particular video is also known as intentional deceit. As the word clearly says, that it is intentionally made for you to be deceived. Now, the act of misleading, basically it is an act to mislead you and giving you a false impression. Now, in this particular video, the reason behind it, creating this video might be good, and expectedly some people might see this and react in a very positive way, that is work towards having a better environment around them, look towards their carbon footprint, etc., etc. They might work. But when you see that there is one iceberg which is of 1 year, and it is and the other iceberg, the same iceberg that he is putting out there of another year, it has completely melted. The first thought that comes to your heart is, oh my God, everything is going to go. The world is going to sink underwater. That's your first reaction. Now, this might be not that harmful, but there are many such intentional deceit out there for you to react in a worse way. Say you see that and you get angry. You see that and you get so happy, and later on when you find out that it's not true, you again become sad. So such ads are there, for such information is there to deceive you. So that itself should be a red flag for you to know and go back to looking at the pictures and find out what is fact. This is not true.
All right, now we get to what I call the fun kind of fake news. Take a look at this.
So what was that? Invisible cars causing accidents? Here's a tip. Always watch the whole video. At the end of this video, you see a name, Donato Sansoni. Look him up on Google and you find he's an Italian special effects artist. He took footage of real crashes, then used his professional skills to remove one of the cars.
So all of us have these things we're curious about. Do ghosts exist? Do they not? Are there UFOs? Can rock give out milk that a snake is going to drink? Now, in polite company, we might say, no, we don't believe in all of that. But these are things we are curious about. And these are sensational videos. So what happens with sensational videos? We go click on it. It takes us someplace. Then you go click on something else. In the meantime, they're taking your information. AI, which is, artificial intelligence, is looking at your bias. So it's going to feed you more and more of this kind of information. It could be that they are getting ad revenue from it. It could be that they want to take your information. They want to download a virus on it. So whatever is the reason behind it, it's fun. You're looking at it and you don't think too much about this video, but this is fake news. It's easier to figure out. It's not, hard. So this is like very unsophisticated in terms of they're not trying to get you. But in the meantime, that click that you have given them is enough. That's what they're looking for. The last bit of fake news to me is the most harmful. My words in your mouth, in your voice, saying, all right, I give all my properties to Sangitha of the Teachers Collective and use that and take your property, right? I'm just giving you an extreme idea of what is possible when this becomes everyday stuff. So now it gets harder and harder for us to see what it is. Now, Mona was pointing out, Anasuya was pointing out that as long as it's celebrities, it's okay, right? What happens when we are going to put up all of our selfies online and our kids are doing that and they're going to have someone, maybe a cute boy who they like, saying something to them that they actually think it's that person? This is scary stuff. So how do we now get into, we've told you and we've scared you enough, right, of the different kinds of fakes that exist. Now let's get a little into figuring out how to identify it and what tools we have at hand.
Now, there are certain questions that you need to ask, and these are the answers to these questions always raise a flag if it's a fake news. Say, for example, is the source mentioned? Now, most of us are aware of WhatsApp. We are all using WhatsApp. The forwards that we get, do we ever get the source mentioned in our forwards? Never. But we still read it. Most of us believe it. And we even go one step forward as to forwarding it beyond. So we are not only having the information with us, we are spreading it. So having the knowledge of who the source is or where the source is or what is it coming, where is it coming from is very important. The identification is the language, spelling, and grammar. Spellings are weird. They are all misspelled. Language, grammar is wrong. They have weird punctuations, exclamation marks, question marks, and they have weird domains that you might not have ever heard existed. They have created, and you don't check all those things. Now, we need to go down to the About Us section and check who is the author of this website or who is the author of this article. Is he authentic? Is he genuine? Has he done any other work in this stream? Is he an expert on this stream? We also need to find out his bias. Is all his work up until now, is it inclined towards one direction, or is he giving you a picture of both the sides of the same picture? We can also find out from the same section where we find About Us as to who all are funding him or her, and are they also inclined towards the same side as the author? So we know that this is a collection of people who want to give you an information only towards inclining towards one side. They are not giving you on the other side. Then what is the purpose behind whatever they are doing? Say, for example, Sangitha showed you one picture of that Japan thing about the deers, where it was a 2014 picture, which they are bringing it up now during the lockdown in 2020. What is the reason behind bringing it up? Again, in the intentional deceit. What is the reason behind bringing up an iceberg which are many years apart? Not only forget about many years apart, its location is completely different. One is Arctic, one is Antarctic. So you need to check on the dates, as we generally do with the newspaper. Whenever we pick up a newspaper, we check the date as to are we reading the latest news or not. Similarly, whenever you read an article, whenever you read any news, please do check the date. If is it current, if is it old, it makes a lot of sense. And then the other thing that we need to see is the emotion. As we were discussing previously, that sometimes on seeing such kind of news, we feel very happy, or we feel very sad, we feel very angry. Now, any kind of spike in our emotion has to be a red flag for us. to identify there is something wrong over there. There is some kind of fallacy over there that is making me angry, or that is making me very happy, over the top happy. The reason behind for me to become emotional like this needs to be found out. That is a red flag. That might be a fake news.
Also, what is the point of getting that emotion in you, right? What happens now is it's a cycle. I become angry, I go either tweet about it, put it on Facebook, do something, there is an action to it, someone else either confronts it, or this now becomes this never ending cycle. And fake news then, remember that when the fake news goes out, it always gets spread way more than any kind of fact check or verification afterwards. So this is why, as people, we need to figure out if there is an emotion, if it's so sensational, then why is it creating something in me? Is it because I believe it or I disagree? And let me go and find out a little more before I go one way or the other with this piece of news. Right? Maybe if it is true, and it's not like all anger is bad, anger is also what causes change. So is it possible for me to stop, think, figure this out, go do my fact checks, and then do whatever it is, give them a response instead of a reaction? It does this bit of fake news or this particular group or this author, is it specifically targeting anyone or any group? Is it looking at everyone who is pro eco-friendly, or is it looking at people who like homeopathy, or is it against medicine, or creationism versus science? Is it constantly looking to specifically target anyone or any group? This is something we have to think. If it is like that, then that is a flag in our mind to say, hey, what's up here? What is the agenda? What are they trying to get me to do? Because remember, this is all trying to push someone else to do something. Is it too good to be true? Is it possible that I can take water out of the air of the Sahara Desert? Now, I know that there are scientific projects that are trying to get water out of air. They're trying to trap air moisture. It is happening. But many of these things that we see, many more likely than not, are fake news. If it is too good to be true, guys, or too bad to be true, it probably isn't true. So this can be a rule of thumb that we can think about. Now, suppose it is too good to be true, then what do? We go and check. Are other credible news reports there that also reference this? Are there enough of them? Is it only one or two people or the same kind of people doing this? Like, you have this support group, right? So there is one person who does it and then the friends go around and do the same thing. Well, is it only that, or this is actually broad-based and credible news reports are also talking about it? We are finding now that even newspapers are taking news and in their hurry to get it out are not doing their fact checks or verifying. So that is when we get into the next level. If we find so many groups are doing this and it still doesn't sit right with us for some reason, this is when you go and look and see if a fact check has already been created. We'll give you some references in the next slide, next couple of slides too, the different kinds of websites you can go to look for a fact check. But a fact check is something that requires a lot more information, a lot of effort. So they will actually look at the same picture, they will try to recreate it, they will look at the metadata or what is behind that video. They will figure out who is actually technologically, who has created it, where was it, from which IP address. There is a lot that people can do, and they actually do. Now the problem is, again, the fake news always spreads faster than the fact check. And the fact check takes time. So by the time it comes out, it's always 2-3 days. And in our whole, excitement to share, we have all gone crazy and viral with it. And the fake news always spreads faster than the fact check. The fact check is not, cool. It is actually telling you it's too good to be true. It's bringing you back to earth. So that's why fact check is not going to be shared also as much. Other than that, what else can I do? I can't wait for a fact check, or a fact check has not been created. I can do something called a reverse image search. We saw that in the glacier video. You could look up this reverse image search. It's very easy to do. You pick whatever is the link of that photo and you put it into Google in the image search, and it'll tell you everything about that picture. What is the history of that picture? Where was it used before? Was it even from here? That gives you an idea. For a video, YouTube Data Viewer, which is, I believe, Amnesty International's tool, does pretty much the same thing. It shows the origins and it helps us figure out where that video came from. Now, none of these are some suggested questions. If you have more questions, please put them out on chat. We would love to add on more as well. But these are some suggested questions that we can ask and teach children to ask, or any of our students to ask, so that we'll be able to identify fake news way better.
Now, this slide is more of a graphic representations of the questions that we raised in the previous slide. So it is easy for you as educators, you can take a printout of it, keep it in the class. It's very attractive for children to look at and identify fake news. They know what to do step by step, it is there. So you can use a printout of this.
All right. Getting into the fact-checking websites that we promised. There are international fact checkers as well as Indian ones we've put in. The international ones, Snopes and Hoaxslayer, I have been using from the early days of the internet. So these are old. Some of the others are both EU-based as well as US-based. BBC is something that usually is reasonably real. In India, we have something called the IFCN certification. So this is a world certification. A bunch of networks, news groups have got together and are self-regulating. And they actually have a checklist and a certification, and you have to check off certain things and they will give you that certification. And you have to keep proving that you are still certified and you're doing your due diligence. So these groups are Alt News, Factly, and News Checker. They are independent websites. The other two are sections of Quint and India Today. The one thing that is not IFCN certified, but that is still a pretty good group, is a good website, is SM Hoaxslayer. The beauty of this is it takes a wider spectrum of things. It's not only political or only anything, it's everything. Videos, news articles, and everything like that. And all of social media is covered. If you will believe it, it's one person who's doing it. I'm sure now he has a team, but he has been referenced by many of the credible news agencies as well. Now, what happens if there is no fact check, or this is very recent news? You could actually help them along, either do these reverse images or help out with this. Definitely report it to these websites. Now, with the volume of fake news that is being developed, it's going to be hard for them to, catch up and keep at it, or, you can't go ahead of it anyways, right? You're trying to assess whatever is the fake news. But if you can wait a little, report it into them and see if you can get their help beyond what you yourself can look at. All right, so that was the meat of our presentation. We're going to open up to questions. Before that, we have a saying at the Teachers Collective: once our student, you're always our student. You're stuck with us. You can't get rid of us. We have a website. We are on Facebook. We're on Instagram. We have a blog. So please feel free if you have anything you would like us to help with, anything at all. We are reasonably responsive. We try to get back, definitely within the day, more likely before, faster than that. So Lennon, if you can take over the questions and coordinating those, please.
Sure, Sangitha. So my WhatsApp has been buzzing with a lot of questions. There's been a series of questions because this topic is definitely something that we face on a day-to-day basis. So to kickstart, you can put your questions on the chat box and we will take the questions. In case we have a large number of questions due to the lack of time, we would respond back on our Trainer Tribe Facebook page. But to kickstart, the first question is, we had somebody asking if you could just explain the contextual fake once again.
Yeah. So if you can put our videos on, please, Lennon. It's nicer to kind of have a face when we're answering questions, I think. So the
I'll just do that.
Yeah, context means the place or the, what should we say, the area or whatever makes up the environment. So if I'm going to take from Cairo in 1996 and say that it happened in Coimbatore in 2020, I'm changing the context. That means I'm taking it out of its original real way it happened. and I am misrepresenting it as it happened somewhere else at another time. That is a contextual fake.
Yes, any other question?
Yeah, so another question that RVR is asking all of us is image search available in Google?
Yes, reverse image search is available in Google.
Okay.
Search, even, I mean, on Google, you can search for Google and just look for reverse image search. There are even videos that will teach you how to do it. It's very, very simple.
Okay. Another interesting question that's coming up from Anandita Tata is that there are a lot of fake messages on WhatsApp that's been circulated by senior citizens. And it's quite difficult to actually orient them or make them understand what we have gone through for the past 45 odd minutes. So do you have any suggestions, any tips that we can employ?
Well, for the types who want to put it out there to prove their own point. So you can teach them something called confirm pro. Let's take a thing of reading. Physical books versus ebooks. This is a false binary. I don't see, I read both. But suppose I am pro physical books. I will find articles against ebooks, and I will find articles for physical books. So we could teach them something called confirmation bias that says, hey, this is something that your question. This is not something you're going to be able to do without help. So which is where your fact checks come in. I think that question, I mean, if Obama is going to be talking like a Republican, then I need to have my flag up somewhere.
That itself is a big indication.
Yeah, is it too good to be true is something for you to question here. And fact checks and going with fact checks is going to be the way to go.
Another question that's coming up is what about what would be the immediate steps? I mean, there would be people who are not quite tech savvy. I mean, they don't know how to use WhatsApp, YouTube, and all the social media platforms. They would be sharing fake news. So what could be two of the things that we could do to actually educate them or orient them on?
Well, you could, I think, I mean, why don't you guys, now that you know and you're educators, or as parents, you could have sessions. The thing that works really, really well is to work with kids. Remember what happened with fireworks. Kids were taught not to, were told child labor, about pollution in schools, and we seen over the past several years. The other thing that works to teach them is to use humor, make it funny. That really, really helps.
Okay. And in order, what happens when you make it funny, they find you as a friend and they come and talk to you much more freely than they would to a person who is very serious.
Okay. So the last question, because we are already almost time. So the last question that we have is when we engage with students, young learners, right? Because they're very tech savvy than more than us. So how would we actually engage a session like this with them? What would be the first step? Because they're always looking at being the first to share what they get. So what would be the first, what would be the initial things that you would suggest for educators to kickstart such a learning in a classroom?
All of our sessions always start with a discussion. we ask them what they think and have them in there. So we've had kids come and tell us that, the caste system is okay, and we will engage with them. And over a period of time, they are kind of invested in our session and trying to find evidence for or against that topic. So
Okay.
starting out, first of all, I mean, are way more tech savvy than we are. Let's send them to teach. The best way to learn is to teach. So have them teach us. As part of teaching, we always find out different things. Start with a discussion. Have them tell you what they think. And when they're discussing, we don't tell them you're right, you're wrong, or we're not sitting on judgment. We take it in and say, yeah, that's right. Yeah, is that your opinion? Oh, that must feel really hard. Validate what they feel.
And we always ask them to provide us with an evidence for whatever they are saying. If you have a thought process, come to us with an evidence that this proves that your thought process is correct. So they learn how to go back for evidence every time. That also helps them, say, for a fake news, to search for evidence.
Okay.
And the other thing is, if we mess what happened, we are willing to have any problems change.
And we have as our motto that is making fun, learning fun. That really works. That works all across.
Great, great. I just want to share a comment which was shared by Kundaram Santosh. It says that the most common fake that most of us, I mean, even I have received many fakes saying that these devotional fakes, right? You share it to 20 people, 30 people, you will get good things happening in your life and all that. So I think that that's a great comment to end this Q&A session with. But keep the questions on. As said, we have the Teachers Collective email address here, their Facebook page, as well as they are also on Instagram. So do share your questions directly with them. Sangitha, we can move forward.
Yeah, I have. I think there's a lag. Do you see it now?
So we will be leaving. So we are on we have a feedback link that is shared in your chat box. Please feel free to take a quick 2-3 seconds to actually fill out the feedback, which will actually help us understand what was really good and what can be improved for having a better learning experience the next time too.
Yes, and please be brutally honest as well, guys. We really want to improve.
Thank you, Sangitha. Folks, we are on Facebook. Trainer Tribe is an open Facebook group. So you can find us on Facebook. The link to the Facebook page is also on your chat box. Please click to be invited to the group. We are a big network of education experts out there. So it's a digital learning community wherein we share a lot of content relating to education, similar content. And this webinar that we just had, wherein we had Sangitha and Anasuya talking to us about fake news, is a recorded one and which will be shared on the Facebook page. This is also live streamed on our Facebook page, which is the Quest Alliance Facebook page. Nevertheless, after this webinar, we will be sharing the presentation that Sangitha and Anasuya has used so that you as educators can engage similar sessions with your learners in this period.
Thank you so much, everyone. Thanks a lot.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. We will be ending this meeting in another 1 minute. So if you want to quickly give your feedback and also click to join our Facebook page. Thank you very much. That was an extremely engaging, enriching learning experience. A lot of us Friday evening, but managed to participate. Thank you for that. And we look forward to see you for the next webinar, which will be on the next Friday. The details will be up on our Facebook page. Thank you and have a great evening and a great weekend ahead.
Thank you.
Thanks a lot.